Welcome to D.I.Y. Automotive School with my friend Pete and Minnie, the body shop girl. It's everything you need to know about cars and more.
Okay, so it's approximately 53 degrees out right now. I would say it's 6 o'clock at night, and we're getting ready to paint all the little parts. There's temperatures that you should be painting and temperatures you shouldn't. We're right on the borderline of saying, should we paint it or shouldn't we paint it? Am I right? All right. So if it's in a situation that says, well, it's a little bit cold out, I don't know if I should paint it now because I might get runs in it or it might not dry properly, the next best thing to do is I have a heater right here. Now I have two kinds of heaters. I have a kerosene heater, and what that's for, since I have a paint booth, I turn the kerosene heater on, it sucks it all the way down to the back of the paint booth and then into the paint booth through the intake filters. So that'll heat my paint booth up really, really nice to where I'll be all right. But if you don't have a setup and the temperature is approximately like it is right now, about 53 degrees, I would suggest that you wait a couple days and let it get a little bit warmer. If possible, and you really need to paint it, then this heater right here is your next best option. This is a propane heater. It's a 200,000 BTU heater, and this heater right here burns real, real clean. This thing here gets super, super hot. In my paint booth, if I put this in my paint booth, I can get the temperature up to 80 degrees in less than 3 minutes. Am I right, Minnie?
Yeah, it works really good.
All right, so if Minnie can come over here, these are HVLP spray guns. What kind are they, my friend Pete? What the fuck is going on? What brand are they? Who gives a shit? I'm not here to advertise for the big company. I don't give a fuck about advertising for these people. If you can catch what brand it is, that's fine. If you can't, that's fine too. I will tell you this. I will go as far as saying that this brand of HVLP spray gun that you can see right here is not a $5,000 set of spray guns. This is not a $1,000 set of spray guns. This is your average home body, do-it-yourself at home type spray gun setup that you would purchase. One of these guns is designed for possibly clear coat or primer. I've never even used this one. I don't even know what size needle. I think that's the primer gun there. And then of course you would get this one here. And then the reason I like this gun is because, see this nozzle right here? It comes with two different nozzles. All right, now we're using a 1.3 to throw our paint. Now, a lot of people use 1.2. What are we talking about when we say 1.3, 1.2? It's the size of the nozzle and the tip, okay? The larger the number, the more volume that's going to come out. Now, on an HVLP gun, it's very important that you follow the manufacturer's instructions. If you notice, I keep those right there, on the air pressure that you use. Most HVLP guns are going to say that you run it around 20 PSI at the inlet, which is going to give it about 10 pounds here. I like to run it a little bit higher. So you want to go ahead and use a regulator on this to get your accurate reading. Now, I will tell you this, when you hook your gun up to your air compressor, and if you have a gauge on the wall like I do, you can set that gauge at 35 pounds. That doesn't mean it's going to be 35 pounds here. So what do is we're going to take our HVLP spray gun, just like this right here, and it's very important to make sure I am left-handed. And there's a lot of these spray guns out here, and I'm going to show you in a minute. If I can get this bitch here. I like to keep this set just like that. Now, do you know why, Minnie?
So the cord's out of the way?
No, so my hand on the side right here won't hit that and turn it if I have to adjust it. But I don't use this adjustment right here. All right, I don't use that. I adjust my air at the wall, and then it'll tell me what it is on this gauge here. So, according to the wall gauge, I am going to run approximately 40 pounds, 35 pounds. That's going to bring this down. If you can look at that gauge right there. I don't know if we can see that. Can you see the gauge?
I can see the gauge, yeah.
Okay, here's 20 pounds here. So we're going to run this about 28 pounds, between 20 and 30 pounds, somewhere in that variance. And that's going to give us a good airflow coming out of our tip, okay, our nozzle. And when you have a gun like this, you want to make sure that all of your components are very, very clean and thorough. Get that nice and tight. Okay, and it's very important to make sure that your guns are clean. I've had that gun there for probably about 3 years, and I like to keep it nice and clean. That's one of my top priorities after I get done painting while I'm waiting to put clear coat on, is I thoroughly clean my spray guns out real, real nice. All right, here's another HVLP gun I want to show you. Do you see this little adjustment here? Do you see what I'm saying? This is our fan adjustment on this one. All right, if you're left-handed like me, you're not going to like this gun because look what happens. See? Look at my hand here.
Your finger's going to accidentally turn it and you're going to mess up your deal.
Let me tell you something. To spray accurately with an HVLP gun, it's very important that you don't fucking move your fan once you set the fan that you want to keep it accurate. So this kind of spray gun here is a little bit hokey pokey when it comes to left-handed. You really got to pay attention and know what's going on. Okay, what we got there, we got a piece of paper. That's all it is, all right? I'm going to show you what we're going to use that for in a minute. Back to the paint. This is our base coat paint. If you can look right here, you can see that that says DBC. I'm not going to tell you what brand paint that is. Figure it out. This is a very, very high quality paint. Just like our epoxy primer and everything else from the epoxy primer up has to be high quality. If you don't use high quality materials, you're going to get a shitty job. Alright, this should take 2 to 3 coats. When you put your paint on, you only need enough paint for hiding. Does that make sense? Coverage. You don't have to overdo it and put 7 coats of fucking paint on it. You're wasting material, you're wasting time, and you're getting too much fucking anxiety shit going on where you can say, I might get streaks or blotches in my paint, or trash will fall in. All you need is enough paint for coverage, that's it. So, with the DBC that I have found out, 3 full wet coats is enough. That's it. So this is already pre-mixed, and most base coat paints are a 50-50 mix, most. The cheaper the paint is, the less reducer you're going to use. And the reason for that is because the binders and the clears that they put in to the paints with the, what do we call those? Tints? Okay, the binders and the clears that they mix in with the tints of the cheaper paint is a thinner quality. Both. Alright? So the cheaper the paint brand is, the less reducer you want to use. The more high quality paint that you use, it's going to be a 50-50 cut. Alright? 50% paint and then 50% reducer. When I restore a car like this, look over here, okay? When I do a paint job like this, what you're looking at here, I buy 2 gallons of paint. I buy 2 gallons of paint because I'm painting it inside and out. A lot of the paint is going to go in the air. Like when we walk in there and paint, you're going to see that a lot of paint is going to be flying in the air because when you're painting these little pieces and you're getting inside and out, a lot of the paint is just going like this. It's not really hitting a solid panel like this right here. So you're going to use more paint when you paint it the way I am in the paint booth than if you would have bolted all these parts on and had all this together. Do you understand?
Yeah, well, you're not painting the inside. You are painting it inside and out, so yeah, you're going to have double.
So you're going to use a lot more paint But the situation is, the paint, you're going to have a lot of paint going in the air that's going to be wasted instead of being put on the car.
Yeah, but there's nothing you can do about that.
So what I do is I buy 2 gallons of paint, and then whatever leftovers I have, I give to the owner. Here's the other gallon right here. But when I buy those 2 gallons of paint, now that we're talking about paint, just real quick, what I do is I get another gallon, an empty gallon can, and then I'll mix all this paint together to make sure that the paint is 100% all the same. If you start painting out of this can without mixing this can with this can, then you go back to this can here might have a lighter tint, but we used all this paint on our car, and now we got to paint our parts, and this is going to have maybe a lighter or darker tint, and when you bolt all those parts on, they're going to look like a different color.
So always mix your gallons together.
Always mix your paint. If you buy more than 1 gallon, always mix it together and make sure it becomes one color. I've already mixed up this paint here. This is already a 50-50 mix. I know it's mixed. This is the paint I used on the car. Another thing is when you're painting a car like this, can you show them the car again, please? Thank you, baby. You know, you need to move the camera around when you watch my hands. When you're painting a car like this, and you paint the car first, then you paint all the parts and this, you got to remember the settings of your spray gun. Come on, baby. The settings of your spray gun that you use, and how many coats you put on. Because this is a pearl paint. Now, I know I put 3 coats of paint on this. I know that, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and put the same amount of paint on my pieces. That way, that's just another security that says, I know I didn't put 5 coats on this and 3 coats on that, all right? So always use the same pattern, the same mixture, and the same consistency of spraying when you're painting it in pieces like this. Or you might, I don't think you will, but you might have a possibility of the panels being a different color. Now, I want everybody to come over here. Come on over here, everybody. When you see me mix this up, this is the consistency that you want. If you can stand back, we're going to be looking at the stick as I pull it out. This is the consistency of paint that you want, whether you're using the cheap paint or the good paint. Like I said, it depends on the brand and the cheapness of the paint is how much reducer you're going to use. Cheap paint, less reducer. Good paint, 50-50. You can see how it runs out the stick. Do you see how long it takes to get all the way off? And then it starts to drip. Did you see that?
Saw that.
All right, that's about a 3 or 4 second situation going on there. All right, that is the perfect consistency of paint right there. So.
Now let me ask you a question. If you put too much
reducer?
Yeah, will it make the color be off if you get a little bit too much in there?
If you put too much reducer into the paint, that means that you will be spraying it as a thinner coat. So it will require more coats for coverage. That's why I'm telling everybody, when you're using a cheap paint that is thin, straight out of the can with no reducer, you use less reducer. You want to keep the consistency of the paint right there. It's always on the drip of the stick. The runoff on the stick is going to tell you how thick it is. All right, right here, I'm going to show you one more time.
Hey, so let me ask you another question. You said you had already mixed that up.
This is already mixed.
How long is the paint good for when you mix
it up? Okay, base coat paint. Now this is for DBC paint or other brands. There's a DBA paint as well, okay, which requires reactive reducer. If you are just using regular reducer in the base, if you have just average base coat paint, you're using regular reducer in the paint, that paint will last forever.
Oh, okay.
The only problem you have is when you're using a metallic or a pearl paint, the solids will
drop to the
dissipate down to the bottom, and you'll have to stir it thoroughly to get all that back to where it's supposed to be. If you're using a paint such as a DBA paint that uses a reactive reducer, that means that it is a catalyst reducer, then that paint requires that type of reducer. A lot of people use that type of paint because they claim that it matches better when they're doing a collision job. When you mix that up, once it's mixed, it's done. Remember what I was telling you about the, right here? Anytime you put a reactive type substance in the paint, it's a throwaway situation. So base coat, clear coat will last forever as long as you keep it in an airtight can. I have paint back there I've had for what, 7 or 8 years?
Yeah. And
I can pull it out right now and paint a car. So once we got that done, the next thing we want to do, we want to get the paint in the gun. Come on over here. Now, this is a cup, a quart cup. We are not going to fill that quart cup all the way up to the top. That would be stupid because when our paint's in there and using this type of a cup with a air filler like this, all right, when you're painting like this or like this, you know, whatever, what's going to happen? Too much paint, it's going to start dripping out of here. So when you do go to paint like this, all the paint's going to drip onto your pieces. All right. So always remember the rule of thumb: keep it at least an inch away from the lip here. All right, about an inch, inch and a half. Another thing you want to do is when you are pouring your paint in, especially your paint, all the way from your sealer to your paint, you want to use a what?
Strainer.
Strainer. So we're going to put our strainer in our holder here, and then we'll watch it go in. And then we will stop at the point of where I want it to be, and I will show you. Now it looks like there's not a lot of paint in here. It looks like that's a small cup. That's another thing. If you have rubber gloves, put them on. I just happen to be out today. I didn't have time to go to the store to get any. Okay, so then we'll take that off, and you can see that DBC paint is very, very good. There's hardly any trash in it at all, and it's very consistent. The cheaper paint that you buy, it's going to have more. It's going to have more thicker solids that are going to clump together. All right, and then when you pour the paint in there, what's going to happen is that that paint will clump in there and it'll clog up. So you have to use filters all the time. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, and this is real quick, I'm going to show you this, and then we're going to go in and paint, all right, is I'm going to just run it through how to set your spray gun up with the right pattern and the right flow material, you might say. So what we're going to do is we take our spray gun like this. You need to come over here, Minnie. And we need to set our air pressure gauge. This is it right here. Now, if you're using a setup like this and it's coming straight out of the wall, you don't have a gauge on the wall, you want to turn that air pressure down to the manufacturer settings. Like I said, it's around between 20 and 30 PSI. So we're going to set it to where I know it's going to be in the paint booth right there. And then this little button up here, this little knob, this is our pattern. So when you close that all the way in, it's going to be that big. When you open it up all the way, it's going to be wide like that. Rule of thumb is when you're using an HVLP gun, that's how wide you want your pattern, and that's how far you want to spray from it. Do you see what I'm saying? So we're going to spray that far away, and we want our pattern that big. Okay?
Okay.
Now, this is our volume. This is when you pull the trigger, and this is a dual action spray gun. If you notice right here, watch. You pull it one time, it's there, and then it's paint on the other one. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I already got this set. If you watch right here, this is how far we're going. Are you watching? See there?
Yeah.
We don't want that. Look what happened.
Runs.
Look what happened.
Yeah, yeah.
We got runs. We got it looking like shit, and it's not going to fucking work. All right, so I got this knob all the way closed. We're going to open that knob up until we get a pattern this wide. See there? Look at that.
There you go.
That's the pattern you want. You want it to be a nice banana shape, I guess. I mean, what would you call that angle there, that shape? Butt crack, possibly? You know, whatever you want to call it, that's what we're looking at right there. Okay, I'm sorry, I went up and down. Let's do that one more time. Okay, so that's about the size you want it. And then the consistency you want is where it's going to go on, but you don't want it to run. So when you spray that pattern just like that, watch again. Okay, approximately, what was that, a second or two?
Maybe a second.
Okay, so then you can see the coverage. Now, we're going to spray it approximately this far away. All right? That's how far away you want it right there, just like this. It's very important when you spray, we're going to be in the paint booth, Minnie's going to be filming, that you don't want to move your wrist like this, and I don't want to do it with that, it's got paint in it. But do you see what we're going to do in here? This is not how you spray. Okay? You want to keep a nice arm just like this, like a robot. Think of yourself as a robot. Another thing is when you're spraying a surface like this, looky here. All right? You don't want to put your gun like this. What's going to happen, Minnie?
You're going to spill it.
No. If you're spraying this surface here and you're spraying at an angle like this, all right, what's going to happen? Watch this.
Your pattern, half your
Okay,
pattern.
watch this. I'm going to spray, pretend this is laying down. Watch what happens. Do you see what happens here? We're getting dark here and light up here. We don't want that. That is not the way to use an HVLP spray gun. So watch again as I do that. Okay, now you got to pretend that this is this surface here. So we're painting the hood, and I'm not really reaching over across like this, right? And I'm not paying attention. Watch what happens. Do you see how dark it is here and it'll slide up here? That's going to cause streaks. Now another thing that's going to cause streaks is, watch this. I'm going to turn my air up to about, that's about 60. That would be something like, let's say that you do, I know you're getting bored with this, baby. This is a very important step when you're doing a muscle car fucking makeover.
I know, but...
Okay, this is important. This is the most important situation, what we're looking at right here, see? It's very important that they know this. We don't have enough light on the subject. Is that better? Okay, now, this is another thing. If your air pressure is not set properly, what's going to happen? You're going to have too much air, and the air foils right here, the air nozzles, well, these are little air nozzles. This is where your air comes out. Your paint comes out here, and then your air kicks it this way and mixes it all together. You're putting too much air. That means that the paint's going to be on the outside, and you're going to have an empty spot on the inside. See how dark it is here, down here, and it's right here? There's no paint. Okay? All right, so what we're doing is there's more air creating, and it's fucking bouncing off and hitting on the sides, and in the center you're going to have a streak. That's what streaks are caused from. So that's another thing. So what we'll do is we'll take our gun and we'll turn it down to where we're supposed to have it. Okay? And then on this particular situation here, that's just a feel and go situation. When I'm practicing and setting my gun here, I'm looking at the paint to see if I have a run or not. So once you get your gun all set up, let's test our pattern one more time. Okay, that's it right there. And then what we'll do now, when you're painting, you have to have a 50% overlap. Do you know what that means? Body shop girl Minnie, wake up.
You're chasing the wet.
Okay, that's a good angle. You're chasing the wet, but you want to make sure that your pattern right here, all right, you're overlapping your pattern 50%. All right, that means once you spray your pattern across, then you're just going to bring it up far enough where it goes up to here instead of here. Like, see, here's my pattern up here and down here. We're going to go right in the middle. We're going to overlap it. That's real important because the situation is that's what's going to help you not get any blotches or streaks. Tiger stripes and blotches are a painter's worst nightmare. The fucking spray gun has got to be set accurately to do the job like you're supposed to do. Let's go ahead and spray this. Watch how I overlap it. Okay, I'm about this far away. Remember that, Minnie?
Yep.
There you go. Let's get in there and get a coat of paint on this. You're going to see what the difference is between high quality paint. This first coat of paint that I put on this stuff, I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to cover it. You're going to really be surprised when you use that cheap-ass, inexpensive paint, all right, it doesn't work like this. Let's get in the paint booth. Let's get this thing painted. I want to go home. Wow, I know that was a long situation going on there about explaining how we use the spray gun, but the real situation is using the spray gun is the most important thing of this whole deal. Prep job, spray gun settings, and painting it is basically the key to a perfect muscle car makeover. So let's get in the paint booth and let's get this stuff painted. Watch, listen, and learn. Minnie's going to do a little behind the scenes commentation as I paint, and hopefully you will learn how to do it the proper way.
Okay, now, first step, adjust the air pressure on your gun. Pull the air trigger while you're adjusting. So at the wall it's about 45, nope, about 35, and at the handle it's between 20 and 30. Alright, now the way Pete likes to do it, he always likes to cut it in first. he's holding his wrist steady. See, his wrist is very still. The air is going the whole time. He's just letting off a little bit for the paint. And he's overlapping 50%. They're a lot easier to paint. You don't really have to worry about streaking or splotching on them. Of course, you still want to maintain your 50-50 so that you get good coverage. And there you go. It's a done deal. First coat, done.
Okay, that was one full wet coat. You saw how good the paint worked. It's very high quality paint. The cheaper quality that you get, the less quality that you're going to get yourself. So always concentrate on high quality paint supplies. We got to put 2 more full wet coats on it. We're going to wait approximately 30 minutes between each coat because we want it to atomize. Atomization means that it all flows out and it comes out as a nice even finish. And don't rush your paint job, especially when you're painting your base coat. Wait approximately, in weather like this, 53, 54 degrees, between 30-40 minutes per coat. You want to make sure that it atomizes it out and dries perfect. We're going to go ahead and paint the rest of it. We're going to see what it's like when we're done. As far as clear coat goes, follow the same procedure, except you're going to want to turn your air pressure up on your spray gun. You're going to want to go double on whatever the fuck you're spraying with on the base coat, and that's going to give you a nice, even, full wet coat without getting a lot of orange peel. I use a conventional style spray gun to do my clear coating with. That's what I'm used to. That's what I do. I don't use the HVLP for clear coating because I move very quick, and using a spray gun like this will throw it down on there real heavy. You can move real fast and you won't get any runs. We'll be back. Take it easy. This is Pete. I hope these tips with the spray gun has helped you. Minnie the body shop girl did a good job of whatever the fuck she was talking to you about, and yeah, that's the situation. We'll be back when we get all that shit painted. We're gonna look at it and see what it looks like and go from there. We'll see you later.